Welcome everyone to another episode of Dynamics Corner. I'm excited about this subscription, not the BC subscription, but the implementation subscription and a fixed implementation. I'm your co-host, Kris.
And this is Brad. This episode is recorded on February 8th, 2026. 26, Kris. I got it right this time. We're in the proper year. It is. It's a lot of changes coming around in the world with technology, a lot of changes coming to many places. And we had an interesting conversation today, talk about subscription services for Business Central development, as well as fixed bid implementations or projects for Business Central. With us today, we had the opportunity to speak with Cristian Nicola. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. Okay, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Very well, thank you.
I'm trying to put a background here, but it told me my laptop cannot handle it, so I guess...
I like your background, so we'll just keep it as is. And I like it. It looks like you're looking down on me, just like when we're in person, so...
I see. Well, I mean, I got two options. If I put you up on this screen, I did this because I got like a secondary screen, and then it looks like I'm looking in the sky, so...
No, look down. I like it. This is a fun, it's a new year, fun look. And I do like the background. I like the dinosaurs. Are they dinosaurs?
Dragons.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, hold on, let me see. There's another one over there. There's another one over there.
I like those.
They're like hand-drawn.
Yeah, there's this guy.
Three-dimensional, too.
I mean, he's pretty good. I mean, there's this guy in Washington Square Park that actually does this stuff. I mean, I think semi-homeless, but he's always there at least in any season aside from winter. So like he usually does like, I don't know, more like Bart Simpson type stuff like that and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't. He did one dragon, which was the first one over there. I mean, if you can tell, it's actually like he would just take cardboard pieces, because see at the back at the corner, it's actually black because it's just half burned. So he would just pick them up from the cardboard, and then just draw on them. So I mean, I bought one of them originally. I was like, I don't know, I just like that dragon. It looked like exhausted. So that one is probably more me at the end of the day after a lot of calls, because the guy just looks done,
I start off exhausted. No, I like that type. See, I like the authenticity of that, where it's a cardboard on the side of the street. It's just, to me, it just makes it more, I don't want to say natural, but just, it's more authentic.
You're adapting to whatever is in front of you and just drawing around it.
Yeah, so he always says like a stack of this thing. So like then he did another one because I told him I like it, and then I actually ended up commissioning one which is on another wall, and that makes me a patron of arts, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
There you go. You now are an art collector.
Yes. Well, actually, that was the other thing. He was like, I'm his dragon guy. He says he's only going to draw those things for me and nobody else, which I think was a fancy way to see, because I haven't seen him in the last year and a half. I haven't seen him draw any dragons, which means he just was done with it. But this way it sounded much better, you know? It's like only if you want it, you know?
Well, awesome. At least it makes you feel good. And maybe he's holding to that. When you're not there, you don't know what he's doing. But I do like that. And I do like the support of that. I do like the authenticity of that natural art. I think in the world of technology, having some of that good, true artwork is refreshing. Everything's becoming, you look online, you look anywhere. That's all the art that you see. I'll use the word art loosely. Is all generated. I mean, many argue that that's still art and such, but it's not like, the classic art that we have with the one-of-a-kinds and such. So...
Hey, you still have a banana taped to a wall that sold for a lot of millions, so
that's true.
That is real. That is real stuff there,
That is true.
What's one man's trash is another man's treasure. Mm-hmm. And I think that holds true with a lot of things.
Man.
And, I've been looking forward to speaking with you about this topic, because this is a topic I have been talking about for some time. Maybe from a different angle than you have, but I think we come together in the middle with it. Before we jump into it, mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Cristian Nicola, and I've been in the Vision, Nav, Business Central space since 1999. So I don't know, what is that at this point? I guess 26 years almost, right? So it started as a joke while I was still in college. It was just like a little sort of traineeship at the Vision in Vedbeck, and I remember falling asleep during the training. I was like, accounting, who cares about this stuff, right? And also the stories after that, basically the stories that they're supposed to send us, there's a whole group of us. They're supposed to send us either to US, UK, or Germany, right? Those are the three things, to do some work, right? And then basically Germany, I mean, not necessarily wrongly, they're like, well, if you don't speak the language, it's going to be kind of tough, which they were probably not wrong about it. But then the stupid thing was like US, they were like, oh, we can't, US were like, we can't take them. They don't know about sales tax. It's too complicated. They will never understand. They just know VAT. I mean, granted, it's a little bit more complicated than VAT, but I mean, it's not necessarily something that you can't wrap your head around it, right? So that's how I ended up in UK, right? And I mean, I wasn't really excited. It's an accounting. And I mean, at the time I was programming stuff in like, low-level assembler or otherwise like, Linux and all sorts of cool stuff. This programming I could have done it when I was 10 years old. But the story is I went to UK to work for like whatever that sort of original contract was, like 3 to 6 months, to get some money to buy myself a new computer, right? Then I ended up staying for 2 years, then I ended up coming to US, and in the meantime I did get a computer, so I think I achieved my goal. That original one, actually, the original one might be in one of my, storage stuff that I have somewhere, the original, like sort of the good old fashioned, like IBMs before they were Lenovo's or whatever. But yeah.
I wish I kept so much stuff from back then. I try to not accumulate or collect so much stuff, but thinking now back that I've been doing it just as long as you have, and you think back to like the manuals, the mouse pads, the keyboard strips. I have a keyboard strip, the notepads. Like, we had all this cool stuff, the discs. Do you remember when you had the discs that you had to install? And I wish I kept all of that, because it would be sort of a nice walk down memory lane. And as you had mentioned, I think I started the same thing too. I started a job on Wednesday, and on Saturday I was flying to Atlanta, and I was there for 4 weeks. So to go to the academy. So it's kind of like the thing that we all did back then. And I think it'd be interesting to walk down memory lane to see all that stuff, because those manuals were like gold. I don't know if you remember that. Like, if you had
I remember. I remember people asking me still, like halfway in my career, like people asking for manuals, and I knew they were from like the older 2.6. I don't know if they ever got to like 310, but I remember there were like, manuals with the blue,
the blue bind, yes.
Yeah. And the strips is funny you mentioned the keyboard strips, because I mean, David Singleton and I, we've been eating about this at some point. It's when you went training and vision, like in Vedbeck, right? They would literally take your mouse away, and they would be do whatever you need to do, right? Those are like the two we call them like purity tests, right? One, can you use the vision without a mouse? And technically, the old versions you could. Two was create a brand new company, go set up everything. Like, just hit new company, nothing in it, like wizard, nothing, and then go and set up everything, like from the general ledger setup, sales receivable setup, some basic posting groups. I mean, you don't need to make a real company, but just the ability to make it to a level where you could actually post an order, and to be able to do all those things.
That see, I don't want to go down this, but that brings back so much. One, because a lot of that functionality is still there today, 20 something years later. Mm-hmm. Two, it's also a sign of you were doing development, I did development, but back then everybody did everything. Yes. You did implementations, you did development, you did training, you did data conversions, you did everything.
You are full stack.
Now, with the application so large, and people have sort of segmented or segregated between the functions, that you don't have many that can do both. A lot of people still can, don't get me wrong, but I think you have some people who are just purely functional, some people who are more technical in development, and then now, as I keep talking about, everybody's being forced into the middle. With AI coming in and technology, development's changing. The technical aspects changing, again, with a lot of the information coming public and available, because before it was only the partners had access to a lot of that information. You had customer source and you had partner source. So you had a separation between what customers could do and what partners could do. And partner source is still around, by the way. It's slow as dogs, but it's still around. They're probably running that same. They're probably running that. Well, you have to do licenses and stuff for on premises. You still need to get in there and generate them there. But it's probably the same technology that it was back in 1999, because I think I could manually write a license in the permissions table file that comes with it, faster I can generate it. But to go into it, I think with the changes in technology, and I'm not certain if that's the foundation of it, but with the way the world is today, you're promoting an interesting topic. And that topic is something that you started recently. I saw that when you first started. I think it was sometime last year, if I'm correct, right? You started.
Yeah, I mean, officially the effort was I've been preparing the marketing efforts at the beginning of the year, but yeah, kind of like more went in force after the summer, right? After I learned a lot more about how to do marketing, but yes. So,
and what is that approach?
So the approach, I mean, the idea was providing services in a different manner, right, than hourly rate, basically. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I think that should happen, and obviously we can discuss more about that, but the idea was just basically that's what I wanted to promote, right? And I think I was reading some articles because I immersed myself on talking. There's in BC, so right now, as far as I know, nobody else is offering it in US. I mean, David Singleton is doing this in Australia. But I mean, there's some people that do this on CRM, Power Platform, and I mean across the world. I mean, and I've talked to each of them just to sort of learn about this. I've been sort of noodling on the concept and the approach, and I don't know necessarily that there's one single answer, and not even mine is totally finalized for like a few years, right? But then I was reading some articles recently, like recently at the time, at the beginning of the year, and at some point I was like, you know what? What's the most in-your-face marketing? So I went to look for the domain. Hourly rate is dead, and it was available to my surprise. I mean, so basically, theoretically, the concept was hourlyrateisdead.com, right? Originally, since I had talked to someone that I knew, so you have Andrew King in Canada that kind of does fixed price implementations. It's not purely that, but it's probably close, right? And then you had someone that I was talking to that was CRM, right? So I even suggested to them, like, we should, like, when we go to, what was that, Dynamics Con, right? Hourly rate is dead doesn't necessarily need to be my sort of, because it's kind of weird, actually, whenever I try to sort of, send emails saying I'm from hourly rate is dead anyway versus my company itself. But, could be also like a portal for people that offer services like this, right? So I was kind of talking to them, maybe doing like a joint marketing, but it's kind of hard to bring people together. So for now, it's basically just my services around Power BI and Business Central. Offer the subscription at fixed price,
So the premise is the hourly rate is dead, and in your case, you have a subscription service. So it's basically development or implementation as a service, where if you pay a fixed fee per month, you have implementation services for Power BI or Business Central.
Yes, so for Business Central and for Power BI, yes, for both of them, yeah.
It's an interesting model. And as I had mentioned, I have been saying for a long time that I think the way that in this industry, and it's not just for Business Central, I think it's along the industry, that it's challenging to charge hourly rate for services. And a lot of people shy away from it because they think, well, you have a project, you have a scope. What if it goes out of scope and you go over on the hours, as I say, or whatever that you estimate, and then you go into this, that's why most of them have the time and the materials. But in your model, and I want to dive into that because I'm passionate about that even more so today with technology and what I see individuals doing with AI, where I think it's even a little more challenging to charge someone by the hour for services. So for a fixed fee, with your services, what do you get for that fixed fee? Do you get any Business Central development and implementation, or is there a pretty defined scope of what's included within that service fee that you pay?
Okay. Well, so first, I mean, as I've learned through the last year of marketing, that you have to, words matter. So there's a difference between fixed price and subscription. The idea is with fixed price, which is one thing that we do offer, right? Is basically that is a defined scope and a defined price, right? Now, my tweak on it, one is just personal because I don't really like to sort of sit there and do something that it's a CYA kind of document, right? Let's exhaust everything that you want and put it in the list so I can cover myself, right? I kind of put it at a high level, so therefore you have a little bit of wiggle room to start with, right? But I think the tweak that I put on fixed price, and I mean, I don't know, everybody can offer that. So what's the biggest issue? Even if everybody goes with good intentions at the beginning and everybody thinks they understand what the other person does, and I think I've done this for so long that a lot of times I understand not what they say they want, but what they actually need. You're going to find out by the end of it that something was different, right? Preferably something small, right? If someone comes and says, I need a tent, and then you realize they need a castle, that's a big problem. But generally it's more of, this house maybe need another bathroom, or maybe just need the extra windows or something like this, right? So my offer is for the fixed price, okay, you know what you're getting. It's basically, we're going to deliver that. And then for 30 days afterwards, it's not just the bug fixes or whatever you want to call that warranty stuff, which I've never understood for other people. Any tweaks within the general scope of that will be included for 30 days. So that means you're not going to get to this little, well, now that you found out that you need an extra window, you know what, the house was, $100,000, and now basically the extra window, it's another $20,000, right? So that's the offering on the fixed price side, right? Essentially, it's kind of like this sort of guarantee at the end that, look, for 30 days, essentially we'll do anything to make it fit what you actually really need and what we've learned through the process of going through that fixed price, right? So and people do fixed price. So therefore, other than my little tweak, I don't think that's necessarily as novel or as revolutionary. The subscription is...
To go back to the fixed price, though, I'm sorry to interrupt. I do want to talk about the subscription. I can see that being challenging, and everyone talks about fixed price, and I really appreciate your analogy to building a house and putting in a window, because Kris, you hear me talk about this all the time. Any implementation, I equate it to a project of doing work on a house, because in essence, that's what you're doing. If you really extrapolate it out, you have a business, you're doing work, they're building a house, they're doing an addition to a room, they're doing something. So it is a matter of, if someone's coming to do work for you, they're going to renovate your bathroom. Most of the time, they're going to tell you, they'll come in, they'll look, they'll do an estimate to renovate your bathroom. You want this, this, and this. It's going to cost you $2,000. They charge you $2,000. If they get it done in a day, they get it done in 5 days, it's $2,000. If they run into issues, then they say, oh, by the way, once we took out the old tub, we found you had rot. Now that you have rot, you need to add a little bit more to it, because of something that none of us knew. So now your $2,000 becomes $2,500. So it's not the hourly rate where you get to run on forever, in essence, right? Where some people think if you're doing an hourly rate, I'm bringing so much into this because I'm excited about this topic, and I'll try to keep us on with the services that you have. Some people feel that, okay, well, you're renovating my bathroom, you tell me it's 10 hours, and then, oh, by the way, if it takes you 20, it takes you 20, right? Because I can go from 10 till whatever it's done. And I see the challenges with that, and I see the hesitation with that, everybody, because then it almost is like the software industry is almost like lawyers, right? Where lawyers will pick up the phone, they talk to you, and they charge you 7 minutes for just, saying hello, which leaves a bad taste. So now I appreciate the project. This is what it is. You get it done when you get it done. We identify what we need. Now within yours, when you have a fixed bid and you're saying you have some additional tweaks to get it to your liking, what if someone tells you they wanted a room with no windows? They didn't even say they wanted a window. And now you frame the whole room up. You put the walls in, you put the brick on the outside because they wanted a brick house. And now they say we want a window. And now you have to tear into the brick. It's not a small fix. It's actually a pretty significant change.
Well, it's funny because, I think you guys know, but maybe not the audience. I'm originally from Europe, from Eastern Europe, right? So coming into America and the whole customer service with the customer is always right, it's always seemed a little bit weird to me. Even the doggy bag, it was not a thing in Romania. Basically, so just, but if you think about the customer service, which I've never found myself to ever be, because everybody knows me quite like that. But remember when you go to a department store and you come in and, people return underwear, 2 weeks after, right? Or people return a suit that clearly has been worn and probably, they were out crashing weddings, who knows, right? And yet they take it back, right? So, look, I don't think, just innately, I don't think I would be to that level, but in my opinion is, look, fine, that's still within the reality of, if I do this, I create goodwill, right? Just by the sheer fact that we're a small company and we're not like a big company, whatever, from us, most of our clients, I have clients that have been with me since 2003, right? So I mean, to me, it's if I can build a long-term relationship and stay with someone for a long time, it's a lot more fun. And one of the things, though, last year that I also helped me pull the trigger here is finding your crowd. Finding your flock, actually, right? I'd rather work with less people, but people that are sort of, in the same mind of them than anything else, right? So if you value me, fine. I mean, I'll go the extra mile. You're right. Theoretically, that is somewhat of an unfair request, right? Because exactly, you should have known you need Windows, right? I think the problem is, it was funny because, I used to live, and I'm back in New York City, but I used to live upstate, right? So once I got a house, I got the taste of, trying to fix things or whatever. So I remember one time that I was trying to go away from the contract I had at the time, and I was kind of like having all sorts of problems. So I'm bitching and moaning to one of my clients, right? So like I'm just commenting, complaining about it. And when I'm done, the client goes to me and goes like, well, now you know how we feel about you, so they have their own perspective on this. Because the argument is, look, I think what I've seen happen in the market, it's also the other way around, right? Some people, essentially will just say, if you want a room without Windows, that's what we'll do for you, without trying to convince you that you should have Windows, right? So once you deliver that, I think the customer is also in the right to say, well, you should have told me that I needed Windows, right? Or like houses with electricity, but they don't have, the whatever, turn on, turn off, what the switch is, right? Because you didn't put them in the spec, right? There's that attitude that sometimes the customer encounters. So I say split the difference, right? So, if they, unless they're, extreme in the request, that's why I said, to me, the tent to castle is the big thing. Or tent to house for that matter, right? But like if you want extra, you know what? One, I feel building relationship in the long run. I think, yes, I listened to a couple of you, yesterday, including the one with Rory about like, AI and everything else, like, what is that going to do? So code becoming so commoditized, at the end of the day, that part is pretty easy, right? So at the end of the day, look, we try to get you, as long as you stay in business and you're successful, we are going to be successful, right? So, that's kind of my philosophy in that case.
I think the service industry has certainly changed. If you look at service delivery in many areas, you always have that kind of a fixed standard implementation, right? So you have standard, premium or whatever, and then you may have enterprise where it's much more complex. Maybe they're building a larger home, a lot of like options they want to add, and so those are maybe become like, hey, it's kind of a time and material. But you're right. I think there's a fit for implementation that are fixed, especially for SMBs, where they may have a very set budget that they put aside. So I think a lot of people forget about that, where it's a lot easier for small and medium-sized businesses where, hey, look, I'm a growing business and I have this much money that I've put aside, but I want to implement, I want to grow. Here's what can I get out of this one? And sometimes that's all they need. They just need a good starting point and then maybe improve down the road. And if, as we all know, Business Central always improves. So they're going to benefit. A lot of the new features are coming. And so I think there's definitely a good fit for fixed implementation. So that's a need.
Well, you hit on another key point with that is the relationships. And I'm on again, it's something that I've been talking about even more so. Again, you said software is becoming commoditized. And well, geez, if we want to jump into that, we can as well. But I want to talk about the subscription point. Relationships are going to be important. And as you had, I like what you had said. You had 2 key points to me that I heard. 1, have strong relationships. And 2, pick who you work with. Just like you interview candidates for positions, it goes both ways. If a customer wants you to do work for them, you should also make sure it's the type of customer that you want to work with. I'll tell you, over the years that I've worked, we've had customers in some of the places that I've worked with customers that we had to tell them we didn't want them to be customers anymore because they were just not easy to work with. It goes on both sides, right? Not just because you're getting money for it, but you also have the stress, the anxiety, and the difficulties of working. Not to say that there aren't challenging problems that need to be solved. It's are you working together and partnering for the end result of a successful implementation, right? Making sure that you're satisfied with what you deliver that's extremely important, and the whomever's receiving is important. So I like your approach of finding, like you said, finding your flock, which is finding the right fit, because there's so many people out there, there's so many different things out there that you can waste your time in negative energy, and you're not going anywhere and suiting anybody, and then you have hostility. Or you can build those strong relationships, like you said. I call it like don't nickel and dime, right? You could try to get as much money as you can today, but if you have a long relationship, you could have a strong relationship where you both benefit from that relationship, right? Again, if someone's paying you to do something for their benefit, they're not doing it just to give you money, and then you want them to pay you for the services so that you can, you have the benefit of the income as well. So I think that's extremely important, is to identify who you want to do things with in your life, as well as value that relationship.
They do have
the two things go together. Go ahead.
Oh, God. Sorry, just a quick point. People don't realize there's cost of acquisition of relationship. So building a relationship early on is very, very important, and identifying who is the right partner. Because in both sides, by the way. So if you're ever, as a customer, as an end user, finding a new partner is very, very difficult. It's like starting all over, right? And so same thing with a new client. Acquiring a client takes a long time to build that relationship. So yes, a relationship is very, very important in this space, especially.
So the other thing you have is that a subscription billing model, which I do want to get back to software being commoditized, because I think it'd be great to speak with you with that. But the subscription model is not the fixed bid model or fixed price model, whatever someone may talk about. Now they pay a monthly service. Someone can pay you a monthly service for services. And under that model, how does that work?
Yes, I think Kris kind of talked about, like he said, and it doesn't necessarily need to be enterprise, but if the things are not easily defined, or you have a lot of them, right? And it's going to be a lot more complicated to figure it out. And sometimes, look, if you're a distribution company, unless you have some weird thing, I think today I'm willing to take a chance and throw at you a particular budget and even stick to it, because I kind of know what it's going to be. But sometimes some things are more complex. Sometimes it takes longer, and you don't necessarily know everything. And this actually fits quite well, especially on the Power BI side, where we like to do like really small increments, right? Because the problem is, I can think I understand what the reports are. I'm sure you think you understand what I told you I'm going to do the reports. But when I come to you, you got to go, oh, this is not what I wanted. And part of the Power BI is more Power BI. Again, analogy. I always use analogy when I talk about Power BI projects. It is, the data model is the foundation and the plumbing, right? Then you have dimension measures, and that's your rooms, your bathrooms, your windows, whatever. And then the actual report is basically the interior design. And I think I would never build a house because I have the patience to sort of think through those things. But what color are the curtains? What color are going to be the paint on the walls? What marble do you want in the kitchen? What, like those things, everybody, even in the same, in the same family, the wife and you could be arguing and you could never come to a conclusion, right? So that's why we go in small increments, and therefore then it makes sense to just keep going, knowing that we're working together, right? So with the subscription, theoretically, I guess originally I felt it would be, I might back up from that thing just simply because maybe it just sounds too good to be true, but it says unlimited development, right? Essentially, call it Power BI or Business Central, right? Now, obviously, like everything else, it can't be 100% unlimited since basically, like at the end of the day, then, I would be losing my shirt, The only rule, and everybody's different. My rule, because this is where you have to put at least a rule, a limitation, right? So the only rule is you can give us as many tasks as you want, but we only work on one task at a time, right? So there's two parts. What is it that you're doing? So we only work on one task at a time. I think David Singleton was saying that he says his rule is I only have one person from the client that I talk to. They're supposed to tell me what it is. The idea being that you kind of slow down a little bit the funnel of stuff that comes to you, And the other part to consider, which I would expect clients to think about, is okay, fine. So now we're doing one task at a time. If you want to be cynical, obviously the question is, well, then it sounds like you have an incentive to work really slow so you can make more money, right? And this is where the answer to the client is basically, well, we're going to treat you like all of our other clients. I work informally with most of my clients this way. I don't give estimates. They just tell me what to do and I do it. And I know with each client when it's something super important, when something can wait. And generally we just put them into the queue. And obviously sometimes it jumps if there is something and whatever. So we will get you, going at what we think it's a good sort of customer service delivery level, right? If you wanted to sort of, I don't know, define that further. For instance, there is a guy on the CRM side, the way he's put his, which was actually, I influenced myself a lot from him, and I spent a lot of time talking to him about this stuff. But he's got like this sort of like economy, premium, and first class, right? So economy, he says basically the resources working on a project are shared with 6 other clients. Not sure if that means including you or whatever, but then premium is like 3 other clients, and basically first class, it was like just you get your own team, right? I mean, to me that sounds a little bit more defined, but in the same time, what does that really mean, right? Because you could be sharing with one other client, and if the other client has 100 projects and you only have one, the question is, how does that work, right? So I mean, that doesn't mean the model is wrong. It just means it really doesn't matter what the definition is. I mean, to me, the idea is, what we offer is, look, you have 1 month to try, right? And then if you don't like, I mean, technically the proper way to do this is, it would be to say you have to commit for a year or 3 years, because there are ups and downs for both sides, right? That's literally the sort of retainer with lawyers, right? I mean, nothing that I'm doing here, it's like something that I came up with and doesn't really exist.
No,
so
it doesn't. But just to go back, you hit one key thing on that. I'd like to just jump in, and you hit on the relationship. You said with most of your clients that you work with, you have an understanding of it. And this is where I keep coming into the relationship, because as you had mentioned, is you work with people long enough, you have faith that they're going to deliver, and they have faith that they understand what's critical, because it's very difficult to gauge what's an emergency, because everything's an emergency to the person who has the problem, right? It really is. And it could be something like my computer's unplugged from the wall and I can't turn it on, and it's an emergency, to, my entire system's not working because the internet outage or something. There's different levels of priority, I guess you could say, and having a relationship where you understand those levels and how to manage that, to at least have, so that they know that you listen to them and you hear them and you work with them and they know that you always deliver, is important with that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but I'm on this relationship.
No. And it's a valid thing. And it's funny enough, because, I gave you that example with when I was trying to go away from my contract that I had at the time. I wasn't trying to supplant him, because there was this thing where I would ask for something that I just wanted it done quickly, right? And I mean, my contractor has a slightly different opinion of, time, right? I mean, like for him, if he says it's going to be there in an hour or two, sometime today, it's not quite Time Warner, cable, but basically, and sometimes I could see how he would literally wait until we put a whole bunch of things together, like we had multiple needs, and then he would come in and do them then. So first of all, it's funny because, I mean, again, I'm leaving the same thing on the personal side, and it's a very interesting thing to compare with the house and with the personal stuff. So one, like at the end of the day, basically I tried to go to other people, right? And I mean, like, I remember hiring this guy hourly, and I mean, like $80, $90 to literally do like one thing. I wanted him to replace the oil in the sort of lamps that were out in the garden, like a fan in a bathroom. He started half a day, he took the containers, and he never showed up ever again, with the exception of 2 months later asking for the half a day of work, money for that half a day of work that he did, even though he never even brought back the containers, right? So my half joke, half serious, whenever clients complain about my services, I would be like, look, man, you should see the other guys. So honestly,
it's true.
Like,
What you just said is absolutely true. And it's pretty poor that people work this way. And it's every industry where people say they'll do something. I could tell you some personal stories, and it's like you said, they show up, they do minimal, they never come back. And you're just kind of stuck there. It's very hard to find.
Like, what? And it's to say $18 for what? Change, But here's the thing: I don't necessarily even like this. I'm not here denigrating that guy, because we don't know. Look, maybe who knows? Maybe he had something personal. I mean, I think where I can denigrate him is when he, one, asks for the money 2 months later. Two, doesn't really apologize. Those are problems, right? But
it's communication in that key, right? People fail to realize the importance of communication. Issues do occur, and listen, we all have them. all you have to say, I hate it when people say all you have to do is, what's important to do in that situation is say, hey, I know I said I'd fill your oil in your lanterns. I took the containers. I ran into a personal issue. I won't be able to get back to you until 2 months. Yeah. At least it sets the expectation, and then it gives you the opportunity to have sort of closure on it, that you know that he's not coming back for 2 months. Or you can find someone else in the meantime as well, if you're not satisfied with that level. And I think that, again, it's this industry is just like any other service industry, and we fail to realize that. I mean, even if you're selling products, in a sense, it's almost the same way. You have services that you're delivering for those products, or those products are those services. So,
it's funny. So, but to close on the contractor, so here's the thing. Eventually, I gave up, right? But here's the thing. Yes, it was frustrating, if nothing else, because of the, it's frustrating sometimes to wait. But here's where the key thing is, right? He also knew what was important. Look, I mean, on July 4th, like, we had guests over one particular year when I had the house upstate, and the septic tank backed into the, basement, right? And it took us a while to figure out. I mean, that experience, first of all, really, I don't know if we're allowed to say this on a podcast, but ruined the word shit for me, because,
you can say whatever you want.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, when you say they should actually buy, I had water, what they call it, brown water, call it that, all over the basement, right? And I mean, I called this company in the middle of the night, and they really screwed up everything, made things even worse. But I mean, the thing is, he came in the next day to help me find the septic tank, to unplug it, whatever. So even though it was weekend, it was like the weekend of July 4th, whatever. So the point is, and it's funny because you're talking about even like a computer being unplugged. Like, there's a running joke between us about the GFI, which, look, I don't know nothing about, like, doing stuff around the house. So that's like the little red button on the, power strip, whatever. I didn't know existed until he pointed out to me once, because something wasn't working. So, but that's the thing. I know that when it's a truly, system down thing, right? He shows up, right? And he showed up despite the fact that it was July 4th, despite the fact that his people were not working. He came in and sat there, and we dug for like 2 hours until we found where the septic tank was. And I mean, he literally sort of, got himself dirty to do this, right? So, I mean, I think this is kind of our promise. This is a promise that we owe to the clients. They have our cell phone. They have, they know how to reach to us if there's a true problem. And also we can kind of recognize. But I mean, I think this is where the flock concept comes in, because you need a person that understands, because eventually I kind of settle myself into this thing. I know that sometimes he's not going to jump on it. And I also know myself that, yes, I would like it fast, but I would like it, right? And again, if he didn't have anything else to do, or if he had the space, he would actually do it. It wasn't just like generally. I know the reason he would not do some of the stuff is because he was already super busy with other people, right? And as it happens, he basically, his entire career apparently is like that development. He basically had, again, reputation. One house, as he got sold, everybody recommended him to the next person. That's how I got him, right? So, like, literally the guy is, I don't know, probably around my age, like close to 40 something, 50, right? And I mean, like, essentially his entire career since he was like 16, 18 when he started this, he's been mostly in that particular development, and just built relationships with everybody there, known the owners and everything else, right? So, I mean, that's kind of, that's the problem with this, is everything that we just said right now. How do I put this in a marketing page on, on my subscription service to say, what is the level of service? It's everything I just said right now, but everybody keeps telling me, like, when you have a website, put like, two phrases. So this is why technically for us is, look, you get 1 month. If you don't like it, you can cancel afterwards. Or, we say you can always start with a fixed price project with us, right? Do one fixed price project, see how it goes, and then you can go into the subscription thing, right? And I think, again, going back to relationship, going back to knowing, I mean, Kris, a good point about the customer acquisition, right? With a lot of our clients right now, they send us an email, and we already know, between the development team, between me and everybody, we already know the history. They don't need to sit there and explain, right? Imagine the way you have with the new company. You have to explain a lot of the background. And more importantly, you might not even think of all the things that need to be considered. Hey, this might impact other things. If I already know everything else you have in the house, right? I mean, like, hey, let's go spray the roof for whatever, to get moss off. But if you have solar panels, that makes a huge difference in how you approach the whole thing, right? So, like, I mean, but if you don't know, you could have a kid that just goes and starts spray because you said you want to spray it for, whatever. So the more you go, the more there's a value in that relationship, right? And
well, that's where you become a consultant. versus just labor, because
partner.
Yes, partner, excuse me, but I use the consultant in the sense of you talk with them about what they want, or again, the partner is the better word, thank you. And I use that all the time. It's a partner should be a partner with you to make sure that your business is successful, and they don't just do what you want per se. They talk with you about what you are looking for, because again, I could go into the doctor because I have a sore arm and say, hey, my arm's broken, put a cast on it. Or do I want the doctor to take the time to talk to me about my pain, to see what's going on, to see actually my problem is I have pain and I want it to stop.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk in telling them how to solve the problem, then you may not really find the root cause of the problem, and you can make things worse. So having somebody who partners with you is good. So the whole billable hour is dead means that you're not getting into that. We're going to give you an estimate, and then whatever it takes, right? So it's not that open-ended time and materials type thing. And I know a lot of people get hesitant of it, even more so now, because even outside of our industry, as you could call it, a lot of people don't charge by the hour anymore either. So it's why would I pay for the hour for software when I'm not paying for the hour for anything else? So you can offer a fixed project within reason, right? So you said you do the fixed project for a certain amount of dollars based upon the task, and then you have remediation for that task for 30 days afterwards. And that's all they'd have to pay for. For the subscription, I'm just trying to bring it back in. So then for the subscription portion of it, you pay a monthly fee. You get 30 days free. Now, when you get into after the monthly fee, do you have a contract for a certain period of time, or is it just month to month?
No, that's what I'm saying. No, so it's not like, no, you don't get a month free. You just basically, it's 1 month to month. You can cancel at any time. I mean, you could basically pause it at any time, because there's also the question, what if I don't have anything right now, right? So, I mean, if you want to pause it mid-month and then just revive it later on. But, I mean, we're not locking anybody in. I mean, presumably at some point, assuming that it takes off, I mean, we can always do like discounts if you want to commit. But I mean, generally, the idea is, if you want to be here, you want to be here. If you don't want to be here, there's no point forcing you just because,
But just with that, you said there's unlimited development for Power BI and Business Central. Is it just development, or does it include training and other types of services?
I mean, it's a good question. I think for now, for us, it's just development, right? I mean, essentially,
Okay.
we do have a separate thing for which I don't know which category comes in. And I literally just started a project right now, and I did this originally with Val's jewelry thing. I did the project for him that way. Fixed price implementation. Budget is, let's say, $120,000. You agree you're doing it in 12 months. We charge you basically 220 divided by 12. I just made it for the ease of math. $10,000 a month. We bill it $10,000 a month, and there's no timesheets. We agree at the beginning what it goes into it, and then basically we don't charge. And then whether there's meetings, whether there's everything, there's an assumption that we're going to train. I mean, you say you're going to train the trainer. You put a limit like data conversion, 2 of them, but you don't go and say they better be like this, or otherwise we're going to charge you every hour for every little thing that we change or whatever, stuff like that, right? So I mean, there is kind of that option as well. It's in the middle, and I'm not sure if that's subscription, because it is subscription with a predefined term that includes pretty much a task, right? So at the end of the day, it is kind of a subscription. But for the regular subscription, it's just development, because I mean, training, then it's a lot harder to limit that. And also that means the most costly is the human interface, right? So I mean, if I have to spend 40 hours a day training, obviously in that case, I can't see making it sort of profitable in any way. Until I get, because I heard in the Rory thing, until I get an avatar the way you want to have your Brad avatar, and then, I can have them do the training maybe, in that case, fair enough. We can do that,
They're coming.
I know. Kris, you were going to say something? I don't know.
Yeah, I just want,
from it, but.
No, it's still within the same subject. I think people are realizing that, we talked about all the different generation, coming into the space, and we've talked about this several times. And one thing I wanted to point out, that a lot of times we tend to mirror what we do, or in a personal level, into the business space. So you talked about subscription and fixed bid, or fixed bid implementation. Those are common things that people like us expect on a day-to-day lives. So if you look at the subscription base, it's a fantastic idea, because if you look at newer generations coming into the workspace, they're decision makers. They're used to that. Look what we do in a day-to-day. Everything that we do is a subscription base. We know what we expect on a monthly basis. Here's what I get on a monthly basis and a subscription. And it's up to you to get the most out of it, right? It's easier for everybody as well. Like you had mentioned, there's no timesheet. It's a lot of work to have to do timesheet on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis. Where you have a subscription, it's much easier for both parties to say, hey, here's what I want to accomplish. What can we do to get as much as we can and implement it? So I think that's what you're doing, Cristian, is amazing. And I think a lot of small, medium-sized businesses would essentially prefer. Now, it's not for everybody. Absolutely, it's not for everybody. But there's a lot of them out there that like, hey, this is easier for me to budget on a monthly basis, or even budget for the entire project in itself. So having that option is a great option for a lot of the SMBs out there.
And what you hit on that, Kris, was really good. Is you don't focus on the time, you focus on the task.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? That's the key to me, and that's what I'm saying. It's you're focusing on working together to solve the problem. You're not worrying about, oh, it took 2 hours to do this, it took 3 hours to do that. And oftentimes, and we've all been doing this, people will pay what they need to pay for something that they need to get done. There's a value to them. What is that value to me to have that done? And I'll pay for it. It's not a matter of if it takes you, oh, it's 3 hours, it's going to be this and that. It's, I just need this task done, right? I'm not saying it's an emergency. I'm just saying you need something done to, as Kris, as you'd mentioned, that in your home life, right? We have subscriptions. We don't, you pay a subscription fee for your internet, monthly fee. You can use a terabyte or you can use 500 gigabytes. You don't sit there and worry about, did I use, not anymore. I mean, early on in the days, that's what we used to do back when we were kids, when the internet was invented. But I like the fact that you focus on solving a problem or completing a task versus all of the overhead around that task. Yes. And I like that. One question with the subscription. Oh, okay, Kris.
Yeah, sorry. It's also the value that you get out of it, right? Because like it's value is subjective to, for the dollar that you're paying. We were talking about houses built or even maintenance in your house. I had a guy come out here and we talked about this in the last episode. I have a boiler room and, I need someone to do a maintenance. I don't know anything about boiler rooms, but the value is making sure that my house is heating properly during the winter time. What am I willing to pay? The guy came out and, I paid a guy $350. I don't know how long he spent here. I know he was out there working on something, but knowing the fact that it's going to do exactly what I needed to do. And the value of that is keeping my house warm and my family warm during wintertime. So the dollar didn't matter at that point. It's the result that I was expecting. So just to kind of finish it off what you were saying, Brad.
The subscription billing, and this is what I'm thinking of, is there a different structure based upon the organization size? It goes with what I was thinking about when Kris was talking about the SMBs, right? I could be a one user system that I need your services, and it will fluctuate. As you had mentioned, it's nice to see that you could stop and start that. Or I could be a 300 user system where I may have a little bit more that I need from you. Is it a one subscription fee and then you work on one task at a time? Or does the subscription vary based upon the organization?
We thought about that. So here's the thing. Theoretically, it's really the work, right? So, if you needed to, because the problem is the following. Look, you could be a one-man company, or you could be a 1,000-man company, right? If you only have one task at a time, it really doesn't matter, right? It's an artificial sort of differentiation. The way in my mind is nothing stops you from buying 2 subscriptions from me. If you want to have two tasks going at the same time, you can buy either 2 subscriptions, or you can have a subscription, and if you need something extra or something done faster, exactly know when it's delivered, you could do a fixed price. The point is you can sort of mix and match on the 2 offerings, right? So you can have this, and then you can have a fixed price for one particular project if it's a one-off, or you can do 2 or 3. I mean, I don't think I could have absorbed 3 from a company at a given time, because I would have to like scale up on the, on the resources and everything else. But that is sort of the philosophy behind it. If you have 7 projects going at the same time, buy 7 subscriptions.
Let me talk to you about these agents that can help you.
And I mean, there is part of it. It's look, here's where the biggest part is going to be the specking, right? The spec of the stuff and figuring out what you put in there and everything. So, I mean, to like, for instance, I want to say that as far as enamored I am with this concept, and I'm very passionate about it, and there's a lot of reasons, not just these, but, Kris, you said something about what is the value. Really, on the internet, there are people sort of with this starting me initially is not, it's really based on what is the value to you, right? Because essentially, I've had this with clients where there's a mod that I could do in 2 hours, but the client would not blink at paying $5,000 or $10,000 because it's super important to them. Then it's something that I slugged away for 3 days developing, and then they're like, "What? This thing couldn't be just $200, right?" So, and again, I was like, "Oh my God, look at them how!" But I mean, I understood over time the point, which is, one, they don't know the work, but more importantly, if it doesn't have the value, that's what matters to them, right? So the argument that the really ideal model is to be, going back to that keyword, that's why I said partner, based on what is the benefit, what is the ROI for you. So here's the thing, and this applies a lot better when this probably will apply a lot better when you introduce AI agents and everything else, but really it doesn't matter. A tool is a tool. If this brings you, I don't know, cost savings of $1 million a year or extra revenue of $1 million a year, is it okay if I charge you 10% of, it should be okay if I charge you 10% of that, even if that took me 3 hours to do it, right? That it shouldn't really matter what it took me to do it. If I can deliver that to you, that's the argument, right? That's really the ultimate holy grail in this other world. The issue with that one is, I mean, I've seen and I've read some of these things. Some people really follow these guys that are sort of proselytizing this. Obviously, the issue there is, how do you define ROI on a thing, right? It's really hard, because to attribute a direct impact to something, I mean, in certain scenarios, it's clear cut, especially when it's a new thing that you do in a business or whatever. But I mean, otherwise, it's kind of hard, right? But ultimately, that would be sort of the perfect thing, right? Because then it's still somewhat arbitrary with the subscription, because it's still based more on, but it still is pay for results, and not cost. And then the other thing is to the word of partner. I mean, I have to say this because, I mean, I've learned a little bit more about marketing, but it is a reality and it is my mind. What do clients complain about all the time? Man, we do projects and they fail a lot of times, and there's so much risk, and then blah, 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 and this, right? The point with this is also, the goal of doing this is to take risk away from the client. Just the fact that you're saving money with a fixed price. I mean, I don't know whether you do or don't, but I mean, like, the point of that guarantee for a month afterwards is like reducing your risk, right? Because your risk is, I mean, I use this example all the time. I think I'm, relatively savvy technically, and I had a nice big printer, HP, $300-400, and at some point I got tired of buying the expensive things, and I'm like, look online, did the research, under $60 printer. I mean, recommended by a whole bunch of websites. Go and buy it. And I mean, look fine. It has scanner, it has printing. I don't know if he still had fax at the time, but obviously it doesn't matter. So, I mean, I printed for about a month, right? And then after that, basically, I have a contract that I need to sign, like 20, 30 pages, right? So do PDF, like whatever, all that. And then you have to scan it to send it out. Turns out this printer, you can only scan one page at a time. If you wanted to sort of make one PDF out of them, you had to scan, go back and say, add the next page that you're going to scan to this PDF. Otherwise, you would just keep creating another PDF. But I'm like, I'm not doing this, right? But Kris, you said about SMBs have a limited budget. Here's the thing. I could just, I threw that away immediately, and I went and bought back a $300 printer, but I made an assumption in terms of what is there. But I mean, that's a risk, because if you don't have the money to throw away that printer and put a new one, now you're stuck with a subpar system, because maybe QuickBooks plus Excel was actually more efficient to them than something that I put you into this, right? So my point with this is, my goal here is also to reduce the risk for the client, right? With subscription, there is exactly leveling off on the budgeting, and in the long run, building a relationship that technically makes things better. Fixed price, same thing. So I mean, if you, that's again going back to a flock. If you view me as a partner rather than just someone that's going to deliver you the cheapest, right? Then that's fine. I mean, I think interesting enough, because we keep going back to this analogy, and this is the only thing where, I mean, it is a frustration for me in terms of the response so far to this, is like if someone came in your house, a plumber, and said, hey, it's gonna take, I'm gonna charge you whatever per hour, put a number, right? And I'll let you know when it's done. I mean, nobody would go with that, right? I mean, like nobody in their right mind would ever go with this. But that's the problem. Why is it, and you guys can tell me your theory, why is it that that's not the same attitude? Because everybody has a house. Everybody's gone through these experiences from the people that work with our clients. Why is it that it's such a hard sell? And why is it that, we talk about something as if, this is we just discovered the wheel, right? And basically the answer this year when I talk to marketers and everything else, and I've heard this answer before, their answer is, well, people don't make decisions based on the value and what it is there. They base decision, talking of risk, decision of, can I justify to my board afterwards if this thing goes bad? And if I choose a small company or something different, then they're going to blame me. And my argument is, I almost wish I was in the regular home contracting, because in home contracting, it's your money. And if your boiler doesn't work, your house is cold. So you're going to do the best to get the best outcome. Whereas according to marketers, and I mean, I've seen in my experiences when we're, bidding for projects, a lot of times people will go for either just personal connection because they love the salesperson, or they perceive that the bigger partner, regardless whether that is way more money, whatever, they're just going to go with that because it's less risk in terms of making that selection. So it's kind of interesting that it is there like that.
That is it. It's the value to them, and no one will go. It is, the times have changed, I think, and it's because of to Chris's point, those making the decisions grew up differently. I hate to say it. It's you're used to doing something, and again, like you said, if someone's going to come in and tell me, you need to fix my toilet. It may take me about 10 hours at about $200 an hour or whatever it is. But if it takes more, I'll let you know. You can't budge on it. And again, there's a value to having the toilet fixed. And contrary to popular belief, you could just take the same, do the math like you did. $200 an hour, it's 1 hour, I make $200. If my toilet's broken, if you came in and told me it'd be $600 to fix it and you got it done in 1 hour, I'd pay the $600 because I need my toilet fixed. Do you follow what I'm saying? So it's people think that by the hour you're quantifying. It's more like you're quantifying the time versus the value. Where if you quantify the value, I think you can, I don't want to say get more from it. It's just easier for everybody to accept. I'm going to have a toilet that's fixed, cost me $600. You're going to get it done today. That's all I care about. I don't care about if it took you an hour. I don't care about it took you 2 hours. I just want the toilet to be fixed. And you told me to be done today for $600.
You know what's wild about that?
Am I wrong in that thinking or no?
No. It's a great analogy, because people don't realize, like, for example, you get something fixed, and I'm happy with the customer service. I'm happy with the result. I don't go back and tell everyone it's cost me this much at all. I just it works. I'm happy. I move on with my life. And
I tell everybody how great you were.
Yes, exactly. I don't tell them about the price.
Chris hears me all the time. I'm the biggest promoter of things. Because most people will complain. Like if you look at people do ratings and reviews, they only do when they complain. I'm on the flip side. You talk to people around me. If I read a book that's great, I tell everybody to read the book. If I work with somebody that did something for me, I tell everybody. Right? Because again, it goes what you're saying. I think with your point of the larger partners, people go with them and it may cost more to reduce the risk, is because they have an assumption of reputation, that they wouldn't be such a large partner if they weren't successful, if you follow what I'm saying. Where again, it does come down to having a relationship, reputation, and you have to be able to deliver as well. I mean, listen, you won't have a reputation and you won't have the ability to have a good reputation and relationships if you don't deliver. But it sometimes people need to take a look at that as well.
I mean, it's kind of but that's kind of the thing. So it still is the pervasive model. And I mean, there is the reputation and the implication of, but I think it's more of less risk for them. I mean, this is what, a bunch of marketers told me the same thing, right? Because I mean, to me, that's the same way as using your, plumber fixing your toilet is, would you, if two basically plumbers come to you and say, well, I have a college degree, and the other one says I don't have a college degree. You're going to go with the college degree one? No, you still got to go with the one that seems more likely to be able to fix it. And if they both give you a fixed price, maybe you go with the one that's slightly cheaper, right? But I mean, that doesn't seem to be, as of today, the decision model, right? For a lot of people. And I mean, there's an interesting thing also with marketing where they're like, well, when I go and say, look, this doesn't create the right incentives, the idea is that that's not the right messaging, because then you saying that the customers that are going by hourly rate, they're wrong, right? And I mean, I like to say that at least what I'm doing right now, it's more of like, look, as long as there's not an option out there, right? Then technically, what can you do? I mean, like, there's a lot of lawyers that offer, offer basically sort of retainers, right? And I mean, I just got a notification from the lawyer that I use that his rate are going to, for senior and junior, $750 and $450 an hour, which, by the way, means we're in the wrong business. But essentially, the retainers don't reflect that. So I mean, like, that's kind of the idea for us. At this point, if we start offering this, I mean, I'm interested to see if people will respond to it. I mean, I can tell you that as much marketing as I've done, I've managed to make some sales that way, but they still have been through my own connection than through people responding to this, which is kind of the one thing that I still want to understand. Why is that? Because the only explanation that does make sense is that one where people are, because it's not your money, you're going to, because it's not your house, you're going to decide on what keeps your job rather than the value of it, right? And I mean, that goes back to the flock, I mean, I have, and I do work with a bunch of companies from a private equity. And by the way, Brad, you're talking about like stress and everything else. I invented a phrase that originally started in my own personal life, but I mean, applies to work as well. Problems you shouldn't have. I have no problem dealing with problems. I mean, life is full of problems, work and personal. I hate problems you shouldn't have. When things could be avoided and you still create them, right? With the private equity, what I found is they're very, they're very demanding. They're very sort of like, not, the call, whatever. They're not like a person, like it's a different personality with them, but they just want to get stuff done, right? And I love working with that. I don't care. You don't need to be polite. You don't need to be nice. You don't need to sort of, take me out for dinner. You don't need to say thank you. I love when you work with, people that want to get stuff done versus people that's where the problems you shouldn't have. In a lot of clients, I've seen things, especially when it's kind of in between. When you have an owner, there's always someone that can kind of calm down everybody, right? Well, but then if you have like sort of a diffuse ownership, there's a lot more politics, right? And I mean, I've always, going back to our analogy of the house, which will stick forever in everybody's mind, I see myself at this point, for better or for worse, that plumber with a butt crack. I want to come in and fix your toilet. You go watch TV and I'll tell you when it's done. Don't come over and tell me how to do it, because if you did, then you do it. Also, I don't care if you take credit afterwards, but don't come in and interfere. Don't come in and sort of comment or, guess, try to second guess what I'm doing, whatever, right? So that's kind of the thing. I hate when you go into the situations where you have to, basically, sort of like run through the politics and the goal. Everybody has their own goal, and most of the time is not actually getting this thing done, So that's why if you find those people that actually just want to go somewhere, and Kris, you use that example with like someone that's growing. Maybe at the beginning they just need a little bit. And this sort of partners with that idea of partner. Like you could almost partner with that person to provide them the tech stack, right? That is actually the same as having a warehouse, same as having a e-com. You could view it that way. And at that point, you could almost argue that you could be a minority owner in that company, and you could offer it for a lot lower cost. And then you have a equity coming afterwards, right? So you can make that would be an ideal model that you, at some point, I believe, can be done even from our industry if we want to move on that way. But I mean, to me, the subscription is the same thing. I basically sort of becoming one of your running costs, right? The same as electricity, same way as an office, same way as everything else. But here's the thing. That means my job is not just to do when you tell me something, get it done. My job is to think about what I need to do for you. My job is to think what will be beneficial for you. And I think the AI thing is going to be one of the reasons that technically this kind of approach should be taken, for two reasons. Number one, everybody talks about how to do AI, how to put it in and whatever. Nobody talks about what the cost is once AI is there. What else needs to be done? Because AI is not going to be set it and forget it for a long time, no matter what. So now the question is, I have the option of a BC mod or I have the option of an AI agent, right? So how are you going to figure out which one is more cost effective in the long run, right? You can pay me to do this on an hourly rate and sort of do that analysis for you. Or if I know, I need to justify my existence, I'm in one part of your organization, I'm going to look at it and allow you to basically, try these things without necessarily paying a cost for it, right? So, I think that's one of the benefits of having it together. And then, yes, generally allowing me to try things. Like this is what the guy with the CRM said for his customers. He would go and say, let's try some stuff. Have you considered this? Have you considered? So for us looking at something and coming back and providing it to them and saying, here's an idea, here's something else. If it's in the subscription and you didn't have any other task, you're not going to have a problem with me doing this. And if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. But ultimately, it's a benefit for you to figure out. So with all these things together, you can sort of basically become a company together with every single client.
I do see it changing. I do see the model changing, or the need for the model to change as time progresses. As we're talking about billing for time, that's why I threw that in there. But I think there will be a shift to you're paying for the value of the service. You're paying for the service, not for the time to do the service.
Yeah, and you hit that perfectly with all that, building this relationship. I think just to go back to like the building house or something coming in your house and do the maintenance. One of the things that I'll always remember anytime someone comes out and do a maintenance in my house, one thing I'll always remember is the time that they took to educate me on how to maintain and properly, create that longevity of whatever I had have them come out to do maintenance. Is that just taking the time and just educating me a little bit more, and I will always remember that, right? So it's no different of us as partners that are helping organizations implement something or install something for them, and taking that time to educate them. And so that in itself gives you a lasting relationship, or actually kind of like putting a bow when you're done doing some work for them. So I do want to make that point because every time I've done work in the past and I educate them and they always come back, I remember when you took the time to help us out, and and we still reference those documents, reference those education that you've given us.
See, it all comes down to the relationship, I think. I think it's an interesting model. Sounds like it's going well, as you just started it. I know when I first saw it, I was intrigued. I was interested.
It is controversial, isn't it? It's still...
It's not controversial in a sense. It's different. But I think to your point about the marketing of it, how do you put all of this into a one-page paper that people can get from it? It's a little bit different, but I also think some pieces of it you could put together, because I think it would resonate with those making the decision. Equate it to a monthly subscription for cable, equate it to a monthly subscription for something. You're not using those words because I don't want to trivialize the importance of it either. But it's also, you're used to subscriptions now. You pay for it, you use it, and you go with it, I think. But I do think there needs to be a change. Time, value, money. It has to change because of just technology. Things are getting done faster. And I'm not saying AI is doing it all and it's faster. But it used to take a long time to build a house. Then they invented the air guns. Houses took less time to build. It's just reality. It's not saying that something's going to end all and do it all, but electric saws helped cut wood. So now you can cut the wood faster. Does it mean that you should, the value of the house is less? They still need us. Yep. No, great. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. I'm glad I get to talk with you, and you spent the time to talk with Kris and I about the billable hour being dead. I like that. I like calling it that, the billable hour is dead. If anybody would like to contact you to learn a little bit more about these services, or to talk with you about setting up an arrangement for these services, what's the best way to contact you?
I mean, just the simplest one, because that's easy to remember, hourlyrateisdead.com. Just read and then just contact through there. I mean, it's the easiest name to remember. So,
hourlyrateisdead.com. I love that. I love that. That's great. Thank you again. Look forward to talking with you soon. And talk to you later. Ciao, ciao.
Take care, Cristian.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Kris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.